Alright, so now this is two-step equations. Two-step equations pretty much the same thing as one-step equation, except that now you have two steps, right? Um, Alright, so first things first. So every time you're solving for any variable, it always pays off just to look at it first. Let's see what's happening. So we have 2x plus 5 is equal to 3. Alright, so let's see what's happening. So the x is here. So we're multiplying by 2 first, and then we are adding 5. And that has to give us 3. Alright, cool. So remember, the key to algebra is always to work backwards. So that's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing the opposites. Well, because work opposite, you have to do to work backwards, you have to do the opposite. So it's 2x, you multiply by 2 first, and then you add 5. So we have to work backwards. Okay, so we need to work backwards. So what's the last thing we did to the x? The last thing we did to the x was add 5. So that's the first thing we have to get rid of. That's why one method is called the onion method. So this is the first thing. So this is one thing you want to keep. You want to get this by itself, because again, the onion method, you do different layers at a time. But it gets confusing when we do higher math. So we just look at it. So it's 2x plus 5. So the last thing we did was to add 5. So we have to do the opposite because we're working backwards. So instead of adding 5, we have to subtract 5. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Because again, what you do to one side, you do to the other. You're going to get real tired of me saying that. But guess what? I don't care. Because you're going to be saying it too. So what's left? Well, the 2x is left. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Alright, so we have 2x is equal to negative 2. Sorry, let's make this negative a little bit. Alright, so now this is kind of like the first step, the one-step equations we've done. So it's 2x is equal to negative 2. So now we know that the 2 is, you're multiplying the 2 to the x. So it's 2 times x. So we need to do the opposite. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Hopefully you're shouting out division. So we divide both sides by 2. So we divide both sides by 2. And that's it. So x is by itself. Now negative 2 divided by 2 is, well, 2 divided by 2 is 1. But now you have a negative. Negative divided by positive is a negative. So now let's go ahead and plug it in. Okay, because we always have to plug everything in to double check. That's a beautiful thing about algebra. We can always double check. So let's plug it in. So we're going to substitute. Again, we're not going to put x, we're going to put negative 1. And we're not going to put 2 negative 1, we're going to put 2 times negative 1 plus 5. Alright, so now remember, we have to remember PEMDAS. That's one thing we can never forget. You have to do multiplication first. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now plus 5. Negative 2 plus 5 is the same exact thing as saying 5 minus 2. Because it's the same thing as saying 5 plus negative 2. And plus negative is just a minus. So negative 2 plus 5, or 5 minus 2, is just 3. Well, this is a 3. This is a 3. They are both the same, so our answer is correct. So we are correct. So cool. Let's do the next one. Oh, come on now. Alright. So we have 5x minus 4 is equal to 16. So again, we have to, let's look at the x. What's going on here? Well, let's see. It's 5 times x first. So this is our first layer of the onion, first thing. And then we have to subtract 4 from it. So it's 5 multiplied by 5 first, and then subtract 4. So subtracting 4 is the last thing we did to it. Since it's the last thing we have to do to it, it's the first thing we're going to take away. Okay? Well, it's minus 4. So what is the opposite of minus 4? Hopefully you're saying plus. So it's plus 4. What do you do to one side? You do to the other. Good. Oh, really hoping you're finishing my sentences here. Alright. So we have 5x is equal to, well, 16 plus 4 is 20. Alright, so now we have 5 times x is equal to 20. 5 times x, well, the opposite of multiplication is division. I really hope you are screaming this out loud. I don't care if you're in the library. I want you to say the answer and the responses. 20 divided by 5 is just 4. So now again, we always have to plug it in. So again, we're not going to write 54. I'm going to hit you. So it's not 54, it's 5 times x. So it's going to be 5 times 4 minus 4 is equal to 16. Let's move this pad closer. Alright, so now again, PEMDAS. So 5 times 4 is 20 minus 4. What was 20 minus 4? We'll count backwards. It's 20, so it's 19, 18, 17, and it is 16. So this is 16. This is 16. They're both the same. So this is my answer. Cool. Alright, let's move on to the next one. 1/3 x, or x divided by 3, plus 4 is equal to negative 4. So let's see what's going on here. So we're dividing x by 3, and then we are adding 4. Okay, so we're dividing first, and then adding. Well, again, what's the last thing we did to it? So the first thing we did to it was divide. The last thing we did to it was to add. So now let's work backwards. So the last thing we did was add 4. So the first thing we're going to take off is the 4. So how do you take off the 4? Well, what's the opposite of addition? I want you to say it. So what's the opposite of addition? You said, hopefully you said subtraction. So what do you do to one side? You do to the other. So you have x over 3. The 4's cancel out. Now what's negative 4 minus 4? If you say 0, please try again. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. So now we have x divided by 3 is equal to negative 8. So now we need to get rid of the divide by 3. So what's the opposite of division? One more time. What is the opposite of division? Hopefully you said multiplication. So we multiply. So the 3's cancel out. The x is all by itself because we got it by itself now. Now negative 8 times 3 is 8 times 3 is 24. But since we have the negative, it's going to be negative 24. So once again, let's go ahead and plug this in. So we have negative 24 divided by 3 plus 4. Well, negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 4 is the same thing as saying 4 minus 8, and that is negative 4. So this is the same as this, so we are good. So negative 24 is my answer. Good. So now, pay attention to this one. Remember this one? And now we're going to do another one. Oh, sorry. One more. And then this one, then we're going to do the other tricky one. Sorry. I forgot what I wrote down. Alright, so we have 2/5 x is equal to negative 6. 2/5 x is equal to negative 6. Alright, so don't freak out. It is a fraction. You love fractions, so calm down. Don't overreact. So we're going to do this 2 ways, okay? We're going to do this 2 ways. So let's do the first way. So we have 2 divided by 5 times x. So let's say it's 2x divided by 5 is equal to negative 6. Alright. So again, what's the first thing that's happening to the x? Well, first we multiply by 2 and then we divide by 5. So the first thing we need to get rid of is the divide by 5. Well, what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. Good job. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5. So we're left with 2x is equal to negative 30. Cool. Alright, so now it's 2 times x. So now we need to get rid of that times. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Hopefully you said division. So divide both sides by 2. So the 2's cancel out. So we have negative 30 is equal divided by 2. Well, 30 divided by 2 is 15 or 15. So negative divided by positive is a negative. So we have negative 15. So now let's do it the other way. The quickest way. That once you become an algebra master, you'll know how to do right away. So let's rewrite this here. So we have 2/5 x is equal to negative 6. So now, if we pretend this is just one number, because it is, it's just a decimal, it's just 0.4. We have 2/5 times x. So times x. So we have to, once again, so we're multiplying. So what's the opposite of multiplication? That's right, division. Change colors. So we're going to divide everything by 2/5. So just like we did earlier in the previous examples, we divide both sides by 2/5. Now, we are dividing, but remember when you divide by a fraction, you have to flip it and multiply. Now you flip it and multiply, that is called the reciprocal. Multiplied by the reciprocal. I hope I spelled it right. Reciprocal. Oh, never mind. I didn't even try it. It's kind of late. Reciprocal. I'll write it in the next video. So we have to multiply by the reciprocal. So reciprocal is just the fancy way of saying, hey, let's just flip the fraction. So whatever's on top goes to the bottom, and whatever's on bottom goes to the top. So we ignore this. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 5/2. What do you do to one side? You do to the other. Now you have a 5 on top, 5 on bottom. That cancels out. You have a 2 on top and 2 on bottom. That cancels out. So now you're left with x. So now you have negative 6 times 5/2. Well, what's negative 6 times 5? That's negative 30. Negative 30 divided by 2. It's negative 15. And that's it. So it's the same answer. Again, it's the beautiful thing about mathematics. You can do it several different ways, and you're still going to come up with the same answer. That's what makes it so beautiful. Alright, so let's do one more example with fractions, because you love them so much. Well, this is going to be a little different. So let's say it's x minus 1 divided by 2 is equal to, let's say, 10. So now, again, let's look at our x. Let's see what's going on. Oh, and I'm making that worse. Alright. So we have x minus 1 divided by 2. Well, what's happening first? Well, first we are subtracting 1 and then divided by 2. So the first thing we did was subtract 1, so we gonna close that up. So now we need to get rid of the dividing by 2. Since that was the last thing we did, that's the first thing we have to get rid of. Change colors. Alright, so now, so we're dividing by 2. So what is the opposite of division? Really hoping you're saying multiplication. So you multiply both sides by 2. So again, the golden rule of algebra. What do you do to one side? You do to the other. So the 2's cancel. So you're left with x minus 1 is equal to, well, what's 10 times 2? 10 times 2 is just 20. So now it's a simple one step. X minus 1 is equal to 20. Well, we need to get rid of the subtraction. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. So we have x is equal to 21. Well, that's it. So let's double check. So we have 21 minus 1 divided by 2. So the first thing we're doing is the top. We always do our numerator first. Our numerator has like imaginary parentheses. Okay, we don't write them because again, we should always know that numerator. We have to do whatever's in the numerator first, and then the denominator. Okay. So what's 21 minus 1? Well, 21 minus 1 is just 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So that's 10, and that's 10. So we got it right. And that's it. So that was two-step equations, and I ran out of room. Go to a new page so you can do the assignments and see. No, I don't want to say. Alright, so go ahead and do these few questions. So it's 3x minus 3 is equal to negative 3. Then also do 5x plus 2 is equal to 27. 4x plus 3 divided by 5 is equal to 3. And then do let's see, 2/3 x minus 2 is equal to 2. So go ahead and press pause. Do these 4 problems, press pause, and come check out the answers. Alright, so go ahead and press pause now. Come back. Alright, so hopefully you did them already, not just kept going and not do what I said, because that's bad. So let's do this real quick. So we have 3x minus 3 is equal to negative 3. Well, again, we multiply by 3 first and then subtract 3. So we need to get rid of the 3 first. So this is my layer. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 3 plus 3. So you're left with 3x is equal to 0. You divide both sides by 3. And you get x is equal to 0. Let's plug it in. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Alright, next one. So hopefully you got x is equal to 0. 5x plus 2 is equal to 27. So again, the first thing we are doing is multiplying by 5. And then we are adding 2. So we need to get rid of the 2. So what is the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So you subtract 2 from both sides. So now you're left with 5x is equal to 25. Then you have to divide both sides by 5 because 5 times x. So what's 25 divided by 5? Hopefully you said 5. So let's plug it in. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 plus 2 is 27. So we're good. Next one. 4x plus 3 divided by 5. So again, we always do numerator first. So the last thing we did was divide by 5. So since this is the last thing we did, it's the first thing we have to take off. So it's the opposite of division was multiplication. Is multiplication. So you multiply both sides by 5. So you're left with 4x plus 3 is equal to 15. So now we have to get rid of the 3. Well, let's see. Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we have 4x plus 3 is equal to 15. So what's happening first? Well, it's 4x, 4 times x first, and then 3. So this is the first thing we did. Now that's the last thing we did. So we need to get rid of the plus 3. What's the opposite of plus 3? Minus 3. Minus 3. So you have 4x is equal to 12. So now you have to divide by 4. So you have x is equal to 3. So let's go ahead and plug it in real quick. So x is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So we're good. Now next one. 2/3 x minus 2 is equal to 2. So the first thing you did, I'm pretty sure you did, was add 2 to both sides. So you were left with 2/3 x is equal to 4. So now like, hey, this looks a lot like the last example. So you are 100% correct. So hopefully you multiplied by the reciprocal, or you just flip this. What do you do to one side, you do to the other. So 3's cancels 3's, 2's cancel 2, you're left with the x. Now what's 4 times 3? 4 times 3 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Let's plug it in. So 2/3 times 6, well 2 times 6 is 12, divided by 3 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. So good. So hopefully you got these right. If not, come ahead and ask me for help again. We'll go a little bit slower, or if there's just one thing you're not understanding, feel free to ask me after class. Alright guys, thank you.